broadcast. The webinar gets started. There we go. And we'll just go ahead and start the broadcast and let folks start to file in. Hello, Michelle. Are you among the living from last night's Chiefs game?
Oh my goodness, that was the most stressful game I've been to in quite some time. So I apologize for the scratchy voice, but I was screaming and yelling for 3+ hours at that game last night. And like I was saying, I've never worked so hard attending a football game in my life. I was exhausted.
Well, we're glad you prevailed. Glad you prevailed, and we're glad you're joining. You made it today.
Yes.
But fortunately, we do have a lot of other people who could talk on your behalf. since we have, I don't think we've ever had this many panelists before, but I'm glad everyone is
today.
Here.
Yes.
So, you want to go ahead and kick us off, Michelle?
Sure. Welcome, everybody, for another QB Power Hour. We're very glad to have you joining us for a very special one today. We're covering the first ever Appy Camp. We're going to have a recap of our Appy Camp that we had about a month ago.
Awesome. And who are you?
I am Michelle Long with CPA and MBA in entrepreneurship, owner of Long for Success, and just very glad to have you joining us today. I'm not going to spend time on myself because we have a lot of other people to get to today. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Dan DeLong, owner of Danwith, worked at Intuit for about 18 years, your co-host today, as well as the co-host of the workshop Wednesdays. It's over at schoolbookkeeping.com. So a little bit of the details about the QB Power Hour webinar series. That's every other Tuesday at noon Eastern. Unfortunately, not available for CPE credit, but you can always go to qbpowerhour.com for upcoming webinars. Heather Spaduto, who's joining us here from ADP, we're actually going to be having ADP come back next time for talking a little bit about where does payroll fit into my practice. Next time, but you can always get the podcast, the recordings, other resources at qbpowerhour.com/resources. A little bit of the housekeeping here today. If you have any specific questions about anything anyone talks about here today, please put it in the Q&A so we can capture that. Chat. If you just have comments, want to say hi, where you're hailing from, put that in the comments in the chat. That'd be great too. We are going to have one poll question today, so that poll question is going to be in the chat. So just bearing that in mind that when we do that, because it is a free form answer, as we'll talk a little bit about what the Appy Camp actually was for a lot of people. It was very free form, and it was a lot of things to a lot of different people, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, you can get the links to the handouts as well. So our agenda today, we'll do some introductions. I think we have a panel of 9 additional people, including Michelle and myself. So we'll go around and do some introductions. And then we'll focus with Heather and Liz on the birth of the Appy Camp, kind of where that idea came from, and then just kind of open it up for discussion for the takeaways from the camp. So Heather, we're going to toss it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my goodness, there's a lot of stuff on this slide.
Yeah.
So, my name is Heather Satterley. Hey everybody, I know a lot of you. I'm the founder and owner of Satterley Business Solutions, which I recently was acquired by Growth Lab Financial. So most of that is over there now. I'm also the co-host of the Appy Hour with Liz and Heather. Most importantly, I am a mom and grandmom and a wife and a friend, and I love our community. And so everything that I have done in my career, which is kind of old at this point, well, not old, I don't want to use that word, been long, has been to foster that community. So I just recently took a role at Woodard Companies. I am now the director of education and media. So yay! I'm really excited.
Congratulations.
Today is day 2, so I'm learning all the stuff, which is really fun. But yeah, I've known Michelle and Dan for a really long time. I love all of you, and that's me. Hey.
All right. And the yin to your yang.
Love it.
So looking at the first bullet makes me laugh because I think the majority of people here have the same issue, a multipreneur. So many ideas, so little time. But I love the accounting community. And so I do have tons of ideas, and I like to get out there and play amongst the people. And so Appy Camp has been a awesome opportunity to be amongst our peers.
Well, we appreciate you joining us here today. So talk a little bit about the birth of the Appy Camp. How did that all come to be, Heather or Liz?
Heather, you're on mute.
Muted.
I am totally muted. So Liz and I are besties. We've been besties for a long, long time now. And honestly, Appy Camp it popped into our brains during one of our amazing calls where we just talk about everything. And it really started with the two words, what if? And that was actually the theme of our whole camp. Liz and I had just come off of, well, it was actually a culmination. We had little breadcrumbs leading us to this point, but one of the things that we had learned from speaking at conferences was that we give and give and give, and it's really, we love doing it, but there's not a lot of time for us to connect with our counterparts that are also presenting and teaching, and there's not a lot of time for us to connect with everyone that we really would like to connect with at these conferences. And so the big what if for us was, what if there was a place where we could go and just have it be us? So the educators and the influencers and the app partners, so that we could have really deep, meaningful conversations. And so after that, what if, it was like, could we really do this? And Liz, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Okay.
To talk about kind of where we went from there.
Well, I saw a comment about, was there really a camp? So let me kind of like back up and share that part. The answer is that we glamped, totally glamped. But, for me, camping is the way that I can find my sanity. So if I'm, big in the middle of working and multipreneuring, I need to be able to break free from the doing and get back into that creativity mode. So being outside, being with nature, reconnecting with who I am happens for me whenever I'm outside. So yes, we did actually go to the Virginia mountains, and we did actually go outside and have campfires. Oh my gosh, we have some musicians amongst us, Ted. So yes, we were able to be serenaded by some beautiful guitar playing. But we did have the opportunity to connect with each other. So just like what Heather was saying, we're so busy, many of us, that we don't get a chance to slow down and actually connect with each other. So it's important to connect with each other whenever you're in this speaking role and presenting, because you need to be able to have a cohesive message. And bringing together a lot of the educators and up and coming educators, which was unbelievable to get to meet some of these people, we're able to see that we all have similar messaging, we all have similar goals, but we just needed a place to be able to curate that and support each other. So camp was an opportunity to really get to know each other and to take on that role of friendship.
And your location of choice was pretty unique. Can you talk a little bit about where we actually went?
Heather, you're wearing the t-shirt.
Yeah, so we actually went to, I am, and so is Michelle. Michelle's wearing hers too.
Oh.
And these were actually tie-dyed. So we did crafts at Appy Camp too. We tie-dyed shirts. But it was actually, we picked the Mountain Lake Lodge, which is actually a famous lodge. It was the setting for the movie Dirty Dancing. So we actually
had some photos here.
Yeah,
Gorgeous.
It's in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, and it is an absolutely breathtaking place. Lots of hiking trails. It's over 100 years old. So it was really awesome. So we went out there and did our site visit. We wanted to make sure that the Appy Camp location was remote enough that everybody felt like when they got there, they could unplug and really connect with each other. But was close enough to an airport that, people could get there without too much of a hassle. And I really do feel like getting to this particular location was magical because it was a trek. You were going up a mountain, and when you finally arrived, it was kind of surreal to get there. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. There was, if you're looking at that image of the lift, they actually have landmarks all across the property that show where the different scenes were filmed. And so we had a lot of fun incorporating all of the Dirty Dancing themes and icons into the camp experience, which was really fun.
Well, and
Yeah.
Heather and Liz even got to stay in Baby's cabin.
We did.
They were
did.
actually in the cabin that Baby was in. So that was really cool, I thought.
Yeah.
It was super cool. And the thing that I'm so happy about is to see the friendships that were formed at camp. They were friendships. Some of them were people getting to reconnect. So you're at conferences, you say hi to somebody, kiss, kiss, hug, hug, bye. But then there was a whole lot of mingling with new people. And that was the thing that was really exciting. And I have to say another thing that we're here together is that, let me kind of call out, we've got Heather and I here, but if you look at the rest of the attendees inside of our speaker view, these are the sponsors that made it happen financially. So that to us was huge because we wanted to keep camp small. We wanted to keep camp intimate, and we really wanted to bring in sponsors who understood what we were curating. And it's a different concept to say, really this is less about sales and it's more about connections, and the community that's here has lived on. And it's been pretty fascinating to see the way that everybody still stayed very, very much engaged.
Liz, one of the things that I really loved about that was the roundtables that we did in the afternoons. And what we did was we had the sponsors or the vendors with a different table, and you had groups of like 5 or 6 of us attendees, and we got to go spend 10 or 15 minutes. I don't even know how long it really was, but we got to talk with each one of the sponsors, whether it was Swissnet or Bookkeep or Intuit, and different things with Intuit or Giraffe, or Carbon or ADP, and you all would talk to us about, this is what we would like to know from you. Ian was talking about, what are some of your bottlenecks, or what are some of your problems, or you were asking our advice on, what are you all doing? What do you need when it comes to this? Or what would you think about a tagline for that? Or, you were wanting our feedback on our workflows or our ideas or our opinions or whatever it was. And it was awesome because you were seeking our feedback, but we also got to hear how the other, our peers, their workflows and their challenges and their input on things. And so we were learning from our peers and their workflows and their challenges, as well as from you all. And it was so much more, it was so much more useful than the normal exhibit halls and just walking around and hearing a 2-minute spiel on what their app does or whatever. To me, it was so much more useful and more helpful. And I just loved it. I mean, I really thought those roundtables were great. I just wish we actually had more time, because you were really getting into a discussion, and then it was like time to move, and we could have spent more time. I just thought that was very valuable. I don't know what the rest of you thought, but I thought that was really great.
Yeah, I wanted to show some of the photos of some of the activities that we did. But in the upper right there's Heather and Ian and and myself. But that was like that was just a breakfast, right? And just having some of those conversations at breakfast, because it was like a shuffle, right? Like every time you did something, it was a new shuffling of people, and but in on top of all that, we did other things as well. There you see MB on a ropes course.
Yeah.
And there was some painting involved, and it was like nothing else I'd ever experienced before. in the accounting community. And I think at its core, it was really all about making relationships, which, if you have ever been to an accounting conference, it doesn't have that vibe, at the conferences, but it definitely did here. And I applaud you, Liz and Heather, for making this and creating this opportunity for the accounting community. And I'm curious as to what if, right? Like you made mention of that, Heather, that this was the theme of the gathering. I don't even want to call it a conference, right? Because it wasn't that. It was just a gathering of folks from different walks of life to put them into an incubator and see what happens, right? So talk a little bit about the theme of the camp and what you saw come out of it.
So, the what if, ideation is all about what if, right? Ideation and creating relationships and, pushing the industry forward. That's really the crux of it, is what if, what can we imagine? What does it look like for each member of our community? And so what we asked our attendees, and honestly, Liz and I, this was something that was really important to us, is that our sponsor vendors and our accounting professionals that attended the event, they were all attendees. We were all in it together. And that was what really set this apart, was it wasn't us and them. It was all of us. And so that theme of what if was really, we asked people to imagine, what are the things that are important to you? What are the things that are important to your communities that you're running? What are the things that are important to your clients? And then think bigger. So think about, what is that wild idea that you have that you feel would really make an impact, and then share it with the group. And that's where the conversations really turned into magic, because there wasn't any limitations on it. And so some of the ideas, we actually have the banner. We had a big banner with some, metallic pens, and we asked everyone to write their what if. And we got some amazing answers, some things as simple of, what if all clients had access to really valuable, advisory from their professionals, to things about technology. What if you could just start a tax return, everything was just there, things like that. So everybody had something to contribute. And by everybody sharing their what if, all of us were able to be part of that conversation, and it elevated us as a group, which was really magical to watch. So yeah. Liz, anything to add?
I think that the what if board, oh my gosh, I would go and I would read it, and there was like new things that were posted all the time. One that still just sticks with me is, what if accountants made residual income? And I had to kind of stop and think about that from different angles. And I was like, that's just such a cool, different idea. And I think that that's one to definitely explore. But it's like you said, there were no limitations to that what if. So everybody was there to be able to say, okay, tell me more about your what if, and then be able to support and then to grow that. And so there was definitely this huge sense of community. And whenever I think to the what if with the accountants and the apps, the technology, that's where I think it's really important that we are continuing to grow together. Because as far as our limitations as individuals, we hit a wall, we hit a threshold of our abilities on our own. And that's why it's really important for us to have tech. That's why it's really important for us to have a deep relationship, is we need to, as a cohort, understand what we want to accomplish together. And then we're able to shift each other, and then also make sure that we're listening and growing together. So that was a huge, cool takeaway. And awesome. I think a lot of that happened at the roundtables too.
No, it did. And, you've been hearing a lot from us, the accounting professional perspective of camp. But I would love to hear from some of our amazing partner sponsors that, what were their big takeaways? What were their big aha moments?
Yeah, Ted, since you're actually next up on the slides, so let's toss it over to Ted.
Sure. Hey, thank you for having me here. Thanks for inviting us to the Appy Hour camp. It was an amazing time. So my name's Ted Callahan. I'm responsible for all of our accountant, I would call it community and more at QuickBooks. And so wonderful to be back together with the folks on the panel, as well as everybody joining us virtually. For me, what was so powerful was the vision of this was, let's gather together the leading educators, both those that have been established, but also those who are up and coming, and come back together. I think a lot has been written about burnout. There's a fabulous piece this weekend that I had read about what if burnout isn't because of the pandemic, but it's because of the isolation that the pandemic has created. And I thought it was an amazing perspective. And I think Liz and Heather, to your wonderful kind of credit and genius, you put your finger on, we need to be together in person. And the power of bringing this crew together to be a community and care for one another, reconnect, and then be inspired was what was just so magical, I think, both for me, what we're trying to do together with the community and with everybody there. There's a real partnership. And so that to me was a fabulous development. The two other quick points I'll make, and then I'll pass it so everybody gets to talk, is let me build on the magic of being in person. That's exactly why we've got QuickBooks Connect in person in December. So super excited to be together, hopefully with everybody here, right? So please join. We're getting close to selling out, so don't wait. On the listening, learning, and sharing, we brought over 8 leaders from Intuit who represented QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Advanced, as well as, team, keep me honest, developer, right? The developer group that works enabling, right, all of the different app partners, as well as commerce. We had ProAdvisor, and then we also had Kim Amsbaugh, right, who is responsible for all of our communications. And it was such a fertile time of listening, building those friendships, and really learning and sharing, like folks were talking about. Heather and Liz and Misty did an amazing job of intentionally, and this is like a new conference best practice, I think, of anytime we came back to this room where we were gathering, the seats were in a different place. So it prevented that thing where you go back to your seat, which just happens to be where you sat the first time. And so really it was that kind of continued, let's get to know different folks and connect and share stories. And then the third theme I was going to share, so connection, listening, learning, sharing. The third theme was inspiration. I literally I got 1 hour sleep the last night because we had quite an end to the camp and then an early wake up to get to the airport. And I spent the entire plane flights back, getting back to the West Coast, of filling up Instagram note after Instagram note of ideas because of how inspired I was. And so I just was so grateful for the time together with everybody, both validating what we're currently doing and then showing us where we can go a lot further in partnership with you all and then in partnership with everybody that's joining. So those are my quick highlights, and we can dig in more.
Yeah, I think Ted, one of the feeling that I got was a deeper relationship with Intuit, right? And that was super fantastic to witness and be a part of. So we really appreciate all of your presence there, and more importantly, the deeper connection that we could actually make with you. So I'll throw it over to Heather, who's next up from ADP. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what was your main takeaway from camp?
So, hey, having spent a couple decades at ADP in and out of accounting firms, helping to design our program of where we go next with the accountant community, I've never been to an event that fostered so much learning in different aspects. So whether it was 6:30 in the morning on a hike, or painting by the lakeside, or sitting by the fireplace at 11 o'clock at night, or grabbing a drink at the bar, there were all of these environments where people were just craving to have conversation and ignite and spark ideas from all different aspects. And even when we weren't supposed to be in that environment, people were like, Heather and Liz, like, kudos to you guys. The one evening you were like, all right, well, let's just sit at these round tables and chit chat and see where this goes. And we were going to rotate, and everyone was so engrossed in the conversation. Everyone just kind of stayed where they were because they were so vehemently working on the task at hand. So, as an educator and a trainer, as part of my background, and, I'm inspired by it every day, just that ability to do that day in and day out in so many different creative fashions. And as a partner on the innovation side, to feel as if you're part of the group and get that real-time pulse and feedback so we all could build, right? Like that was our task at hand, like taking the insight to then go back to our teams and say, here's what we're doing great. Here's what we need to do next. So for us, we had our head developer, Rhonda, who, runs point on the design of our Accountant Connect experience. She came back and instantly started making changes so that we could hit the mark on the feedback. So I think that type of environment was appreciated by all of us. And I think the outcome of where we all go from here, tenfold will come back to what we all experienced at the Appy Hour.
Fantastic. One of the things that, Ted and Heather, ADP and Intuit has this like nebulous, like you're this company, right? Like behind, and to actually, build a relationship and connect with you both at this sort of event was, it was a game changer for me, for one. I don't know, Michelle, do you feel the same way, or do you have thoughts about that?
I'm sorry, I was distracted by the dog getting into things.
That's the problem of doing this live.
I'm sorry.
I was just wondering if you had a feeling about, the companies that came as app vendors, building the relationships.
Oh, I thought it was awesome because like I said earlier, when you're just at the regular conferences and you're going through the exhibit halls, it's hard to develop those relationships. But like, for example, I've known Heather and stuff, and we've worked with ADP before doing things, with our Power Hour and things like that. But it's been hard, like, to really get to know Heather or whatever. But we bonded because of the painting and the crafts, because I am not creative, but Heather, I gotta give her kudos. She did the calligraphy and the anchor on my sign to create this, so we had times where we had speakers and we had roundtables, but we also had, like you showed, the ropes course where people were doing that, or we had crafts like making these signs. And I can't paint worth a darn, but Heather knows calligraphy, so she was helping me out. So I got to know Heather much better and got to develop that relationship with her a lot better, so I developed that. I got to talk with Ben and get to know him a lot better over breakfast one morning. We were sitting there having breakfast, and he was telling me about bookkeeper and how he developed and created that, and some of his college days and things with his buddies. And, so we did get to develop some of those relationships more, where you go above and beyond, what you would get to know people at a normal conference. And so I think that helped a lot, getting to create some of those relationships, above and beyond a normal conference, getting to know them on a personal level. And I think that just really helped a lot, to where now I feel a lot more comfortable reaching out to them, as opposed to normally, just from the conference meetings.
Yes. And just as a point of syntax, it's keeper, not bot keeper.
I'm sorry. It was a late night from that Raiders game. I got no sleep. We didn't get home until almost midnight. I'm sorry, Ben.
We have made sure to overlap with as many other apps and technology partners as possible to make it maximally confusing. So,
I apologize, Ben.
And you're doing a great job of it.
Thank you, Dan. Keep me in line. I am sleep deprived today.
So I wanted to toss it over to Ian. Ian had a distinct of being on both sides. He was actually a speaker as well as a presenter as well. So Ian, talk a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, for me, it's probably the first time I've been in person for almost 3 years with COVID amongst everybody. It was good to connect. I think what was really interesting about everything was It was a little slow when we first got in. We reconnected with people we knew, but as the other folks said, over the course of the 2 days, I think I met every single person there and got to have a personal connection and conversation. I actually toured the entire grounds, every, I think, square inch of trails. And I talked to, I think, 8 people for over an hour each to really just dig in and understand more about who they were, what their what if was. And in that particular piece, I got to discover my own what if and be able to think through kind of the things for me as both a business owner, as well as a speaker around, what drives us and what really drives things forward. So overall, I want to give a big round of applause to both Heather and Liz, Misty, and everybody, and for everybody that came and supported. As I told them at the beginning, it's a very ambitious goal, and it's really, really hard to do. But what it was is it sets the scene, I think, for how things can change going forward to what Ted was saying, which was, how do we form better connections, stronger connections between everybody in the accounting profession and community. And it's not just whether, you're wearing one hat or another. It's like everybody here, we all wear multiple hats. And I think that really set the tone for how things will change going forward.
I have too many things in front of my microphone, so apologize.
I want to make sure I get time for everybody here.
All right, so we'll move on to Jenny Moore.
Oh, hello. Thank you. And I am one happy camper. Yes, I'm a Canadian, and yes, pun was intended. What I really liked about the event was being able to have genuine, authentic conversations and really getting down to the root causes that I feel that all of us as accounting professionals, myself included, are still struggling with. So I'm also a practice owner. I have a firm here in Canada, and I'm also the partnerships manager for Ignition. And it was lovely having some extremely candid conversations with people. And I would encourage those that even weren't able to come to the event, to still have these candid conversations with app partners. Myself, I get kind of stuck in my own bias because this is how I would run my practice, but it was so neat just to open up my viewpoint and being able to take that back to the table, the development table here at Ignition, to think of how we can do things differently. So whether you were there or not, I would encourage you, whatever app you want to know or do know, keep giving us that feedback, because really that is what, at least that's what energizes me. And I'm sure it does everybody else on this panel as well. We want to know what your pain points are. And a lot of them are still quite in the pricing mode or in the workflow mode. These are not topics that are going away anytime soon. So keep having those conversations, everybody. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us at Ignition.
And Jenny, I think that's a good point. And I think that's part of one of the takeaways is that we can learn from each other and how other firms do things. And even if you're on your own, how do other people do things? What's their workflow? What are their pain points? How have they overcome some of the obstacles and the challenges? And, learning from them and how have they changed their practice and things like that, and being able to learn from our peers and sharing with each other so that we can be better within our own practices. And I think that's one of the big things to learn is to learn from each other and share with each other. And that's where having these groups and these communities and getting together online, in the Facebook groups or things like that, or at QuickBooks Connect and things like that, being able to come together in these communities and work with each other. And instead of seeing each other as competition, seeing each other as a support system, I think is great. And that's where, we talk about our tribe, our QuickBooks tribe or our ProAdvisor tribe supporting one another, I think is just really what makes our community unique. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dan, you're muted.
You're muted.
I clicked it twice. Sorry. So yeah, I appreciate, Jenny, everything that you brought to the table because, not just being a representative of an application application vendor, but also, you have your own practice. So you share both of that distinct viewpoint. All right, good. Moving on to Mike over at Giraffe.
All right. How's everyone doing?
Awesome.
Good. This is an awesome event for me on many different levels. I think, first of all, Heather and Liz, I mean, just putting the environment together that we are at, the great scenery that we are witnessing. I just think it opened up, a culture and community that we are there that just created a lot of openness and, more importantly, transparency, whether that was on the business side of things or even on the personal side of things. So wherever we're gathered together, either at the fireside chat or having drinks at the bar or even in session, I think that's the environment that was conducive and made it a lot of fun. One of the things that I appreciated at this event more than anything else, sometimes we're so focused on serving and helping our end clients. And I think it just changed the conversation a bit, where we are focused on each other and focused on our firms and focused on our personal goals and ambitions. And I thought that was really great in terms of those conversations. And that really kind of led even into our innovation roundtable that Giraffe is hosting, and just focusing the conversation on the firms. What were your aspirations? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish over the next year or 2 years or 3 years? And that created a little bit of inspiration with myself and Dan Gertrudes over at Growth Lab, when we were talking to everyone around the tables and said, how would you like to start really thinking through your firm over the next 5 years? And everybody kind of raised their hand. They definitely want to do that. And so what Dan and I came up with, and we communicated at Appy Camp, was to put on a free boot camp focused on your firm. And everyone was raising their hands about doing that. So more to come from Growth Lab and Giraffe to support everyone in this community. And we look forward to next year on the Giraffe side for sure, attending Appy Camp.
And I'm still muted, so we appreciate you, Mike, and for joining us here today and being at the camp. I think that was part of now we're getting into the nitty gritty of like, what exactly do you do? When we're getting to the app vendors that were there, because a lot of times the larger booths, when you go to these accounting conferences, are taken up by someone with a double decker that has a bar at the top, to actually be able to make that intimate connection sitting at a table with you guys. So next we have 2 for 1. So we have Sam and Mandy. Tell us about your experiences from the Swissnet perspective.
Oh my gosh. First of all, Liz and Heather, thank you so much for having us. It was like adult camp. I mean, it brought back all the feelings you had at kid camp, but all of the inspiration and motivation that adults need today. It really pushed people past their comfort zone. I can think of 2 distinct things that we did that was outside of people's comfort zone. The ropes course. I remember watching people that were like, I don't even know if I can do this. I'm not going to try this. They were like at the end, swinging and stuff on the ropes course and having a blast with it. And then there's other people that were introverts, and they had this event where they had emoji balls, and and we're throwing emoji balls at each other. And if you were caught with an emoji ball, you were given a line to say, but you had to do it in that emoji. And there was people that were totally outside of their comfort zone. They were pushing each other, and I think that that's what the whole event was about, was just pushing yourself farther and not limiting yourself. And it was just awesome. I really, really enjoyed being a part of it. And I am looking so forward to next year.
Dan?
For me, I think, as a product guy, my entire world revolves around the idea
Oh no, he froze.
Oh
Nope.
no, not
Oh,
again.
You're
we
back.
can hear you. You're back. Maybe.
It's always when he says, "Can you hear me now?" It's perfect.
Everything's fine until I speak, I think.
Yeah.
We might have to
Okay.
come
Why don't you try killing the video and go audio only?
back. I will.
Oh.
Yeah. As soon as I
Oh no.
take away. Wait. Okay. I think I killed it. Is the video okay? I think we're okay. All right. So what I realized was that, you know, Liz and Heather curated an experience, and for me, that experience allowed us as vendors to come in and interact with the accounting world really in ways that we can't usually. Michelle, you alluded to it. You know, we were able to ask questions about challenges, but we were able to engage in topics that expanded way beyond what the typical 30 or 40 minute sales call that we get to have, or the 3 minutes at a booth. And what was so cool was that it wasn't about the tech. We were able to listen to people sharing pricing strategies with each other. We got to discuss ways to elevate learning and make it accessible to those with limited economic means. And we got to talk about diverse representation in the field, and the intentionality and the structure of the camp, even though it was pretty free form, was inspiring. But I think more inspiring than that is the intentionality that left the camp with the campers. So I think that a takeaway for those that weren't there might be that, you know, your peers are so passionate about so many things, be it social change or equality or charity, and being intentional about all of their interactions personally and professionally is something that I think everyone took away from the camp. And then lastly, my big takeaway that I think we all picked up on was that there's an infinite number of ways in which we can all grow and contribute within the community.
Thanks, Sam. We finally heard you.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we couldn't see you. But I appreciate you joining us here today and sharing your thoughts. So go ahead, Michelle. You were.
No, I was just going to say, you know, Sam was talking about how we share and come together in a community. And I think that's one of the things that Liz and Heather did a great job with this, because bringing the vendors and the sponsors, you know, bringing them together along with us, bringing us together in a setting like this where it wasn't such a formal situation. I mean, doing things fun together, like the ropes course, or, you know, the painting, or, you know, some of these things that are fun. We release our guard. You know, it's not a professional situation, or even just at breakfast, you know, or just you're out of the more formal situation. People are more relaxed and all this, and it just kind of releases some of the, you know, whatever. It makes people more comfortable to discuss things, and it kind of lets your guards down, and it lets some of the discussion and the ideas and the what if, and it just allows some of that collaboration and ideation and some of the free flowing of ideas and what ifs. It allows some of that to kind of go. And I just think that's where some of these great ideas and you know, Mike mentioned, hey, you know, we came up with this idea of doing a boot camp, and you know, I think that's where some of this can really start to flourish, and ideas for what if we did this together, and what if we do that. I saw, you know, Mariette and Don Brolin are working on something together, and you know, we get different people collaborating, working together, doing different things. And I mean, I just think it's wonderful when you bring people together in different settings, great things can happen. And so bringing, you know, the app developers together with some of us together, and even bringing different trainers together, I just think great things can happen for us in the accounting community. So I just think it's an awesome opportunity. And thank you again, Heather and Liz, for bringing us together, and the app partners and sponsors for making it possible, you know. So I can't wait to see.
I think the biggest part of all of that was that there wasn't an end goal, right? Like there wasn't an agenda item that, you know, take away for anyone. So I think that made it open for for people to attend in a way that there wasn't any requirement. Heather and Liz, do you feel like that was I'm sure it was intentional, but I mean, do you feel like that was the the outcome was that there was no agenda?
Yeah, I mean, really the vision, I think, Ted, I think it may have been you that said this, and it totally resonated with me when you said it, was that we created the space, the magic evolved. So and that was our goal. We knew, Liz and I knew, if we created a space that would facilitate these types of relationships and these types of conversations, the magic was going to happen on its own. And that's exactly what happened. And it was beautiful. It was actually one of the most beautiful things I've seen in my life so far, was to see those relationships happening. Liz actually, during our opening remarks, talked about how each one of us in our community is a star, and that we shine, we learn, but we shine brightest when we're part of a constellation. And the constellations are really these relationships, and these relationships that we build among many of us. So that was really the whole theme of the event, was to allow each individual to shine brightly and speak their truth and make an impact on their own, but then create these relationships and these constellations among all of us, to really impact not just our profession, and the accounting industry, but our world. And that, I think, was, and I think that was probably the most impactful thing, was to actually watch that unfold. And it's still something that, every day I kind of pinch myself and go, wow, I can't wait to get back to that again.
So what I would say to the people who are listening that, are sitting out there in their own practice, in their own firm, and a lot of people might be solopreneurs, you are the only person in your firm or whatever, start getting involved. Start engaging with the Facebook communities. There's lots of different Facebook groups. We've got one, there's the Appy Hour, or the Heather and Liz have an Appy Hour group. There's lots of different Facebook groups out there. Start getting involved with those. Start going to things like QuickBooks Connect and getting involved and getting to know people. Start getting involved with the different apps and giving them feedback, and, start giving your voice and sharing your opinion. When somebody goes on QB Power Hour Facebook group and they post a question, share your opinion, give your ideas, give your feedback, start getting involved and getting in the conversation, because that's how it starts, is by sharing your idea and opinion and asking your own questions. If you have a question, how do you deal with a client who does this? How do you deal with this problem in your practice? I mean, that's what it's all about, is sharing your ideas and your opinions and your expertise, and also asking when you have a problem or a question or whatever. It's all about connecting.
I think that this is a great point to be able to jump in and say, one of the things that Ben did, and so I want to give you a chance to talk, Ben. But one of the things that was really, really cool that you brought was asking about the community's feedback with a tagline. You asked us and you shared with us what the product does, Keeper. And so we were able to, as a group, say, we like this one, or, ooh, so close. But I mean, how did that feel as a participant in that experience?
Yeah, thank you. And before I talk about how that felt, I just want to say thank you. One, making sure I didn't get left out here, but also for organizing this whole weekend. So Liz and Heather, thank y'all both so much. And Michelle and Dan, thank y'all for giving us the opportunity to relive a little bit of the magic here. So I appreciate both of those. So for those of you who don't know me, we're the new kids on the block. I'm Ben, I'm Keeper's CEO. And so Keeper does a whole lot of stuff. And that's kind of what we were trying to figure out, how to navigate, how to message that appropriately to our customers. So I came with this whole notion of a month-end close in a box. Other folks added to that things like the ultimate month-end close machine, which maybe is a little bit too BMW-esque for any sort of copyright to go through. But it was really helpful just being able to iterate with all of the educators who have been in this market and know what pain points people experience, what problems people face, and how marketing can connect to that to help us solve problems. Because at the end of the day, that's where we want to get to, is having candid conversations with our customers, building the software that they need to run a more efficient practice so they can spend more time doing the things that they want to do. And so it's funny, a lot of this experience felt like kind of like a debutante ball for us. This was like this coming out party of sorts. And I look forward to continuing to deepen the relationships that we built there with our customers, with our future customers, with other app partners, and of course with Intuit as well.
Yeah, I think Ben, that you were the surprise for me from my perspective, because just a few months prior, I had stopped by the booth at Keeper's booth at Scaling New Heights, and I wasn't quite sure what it did, right? But then sitting at your round table, you didn't even have to talk, because the other people that were there that use your product did the talking for you to tell me what I was missing out on. So I think it was an awesome juxtaposition of how something happens at a traditional conference and then an event like this.
Yeah,
you had a lot of promoters there.
Yes, they were talking about how wonderful it was and how awesome it was. And yeah, they were definitely your cheerleaders already. There were quite a few people using it already. That was awesome to see.
I enjoyed the entire experience. And one of the things that you said, Dan, in the very beginning was that Appy Camp was so much to so many different people. And, that's the thing that Heather and I really tried to curate while we were planning, was we wanted to sprinkle in seeds of being able to let people then foster that growth. And that's exactly what we saw. It was exciting to be able to see that Heather and I really wanted to make these little opportunities of, here's a topic, now go off and have conversations. And they just grew into so much more. And so just like you were saying, Heather Spaduto, that being in the fireside chats in the evening, didn't want to leave, you didn't want to rotate, you just wanted to keep going. Or Michelle, you were talking about having the roundtables and just wanting to keep going. That's the thing that we keep hearing, is that people had these conversations that they really wanted to continue on. And one of the magical aspects of the Mountain Lake Lodge is that it had these little private areas where you could go and have walks, or you could go and have little side conversations and continue those conversations. So it was really quite a magical experience for Heather and I.
Fantastic. Now, so I want to have time for a little bit of a poll, right? So typically what we do in the Power Hour is throw up a poll question, you answer it, and there's usually one or multiple options. But since this was since the theme of the Appy Camp was what if, as an accounting professional, what would be your what if? Kind of threw some of those options out there that were just kind of thrown up there. But in the comments or in the chat, what would be your what if? We're talking about what if accountants earned residual income, or what if business owners had everything at their fingertips? What would your what if be? I'm cultivating ideas from you folks, and then while people are doing that, Heather and Liz, I think the most common question that was thrown in the chat is, when's the next one?
So we're working on that. There will be a next one. That's the most important thing. It will be in the fall of 2023 or late summer. We don't have the official date yet, so stay tuned for that. But what we do know is that we will be having our Appy Campfire Chat webinar series, which will be kicking off within the next month, which is going to include our our wonderful accountant speaker influencers, some of our up and comers. So some of those that were at camp that are just starting their journey as a presenter and speaker and writer, and our amazing partners. So you can register for those webinars where we'll actually be highlighting in little chunks of what did we actually find out at camp and what was that experience, and kind of digging into what came out of those ideation sessions. We'll be doing that over the next year. So you can definitely, connect with us that way. And then the application process for Appy Camp will start in the spring. And it is an application process. So just for those of you that don't know much about Appy Camp, it is a very small event. So we had about 80 people there, 60 accounting professionals, and then with our staff and our sponsor vendor attendees. So it is an application process. We'll open that up, and so really excited. And we're still finalizing the venue for next year. We love Mountain Lake Lodge. We'd like to find a place that has the same vibe, but it's a little different.
Same vibe and maybe slightly different coast.
Yeah, slightly different coast.
Rocky Mountains are always good.
Yeah, definitely.
Keystone, Breck.
I think one of my things that happened for me personally is I never watched Dirty Dancing all the way through. So the fact that I could watch it at the place that it was filmed, it was a really neat experience for me to see it that way, because people behind me would be like, oh yeah, I know where that is.
Really. Yeah, I loved that piece of it too. And like Heather said, the Appy Hour webinar series is going to continue on, and the campfire chat. So we're going to continue on. So, the group that is here, our partners that are here, we're going to continue to have a webinar series that will last throughout the year. And then, Anna, you're one of the people that, you're on my list to tap. You were an up and comer that has just been shining in this community, and we would love to have you and others on to be able to share what did it change for you, what's been different since Appy Hour Camp.
Awesome. Anyone else? I'll throw it out there. We have a couple more minutes before the top of the hour. Anyone else wants to have some closing thoughts about their experience? The stunned silence.
I'll jump in really fast. I've been reading through the comments. I think what I would encourage everyone who's joining who wasn't part of Appy Camp to feel was we were all at that camp together to learn how to serve you better with the experiences that you needed, to identify what are the common areas of breakage in your experience or those wish fors, and to see those thematically across a group of people that don't come together often. Amazingly powerful for each of us as app providers to say, aha, here's real signal, right, versus a one-off. And so what I would say is look for, from us at least, I'll speak on behalf of myself and Intuit, is the velocity of your feedback, its acknowledgement, and what we're doing about it. Expect to hear from us really clearly. What I learned was the power of communicating the intention behind an experience so that you understand what we're trying to do, because that helps you better serve your clients. So that's what I've been actively driving back here at QuickBooks.
Well, awesome. Michelle, any final thoughts?
I just want to thank everybody for being here, all of you for sponsoring it and being part of it, and especially thank you, Liz and Heather, for the idea and all the hard work I know that it took to plan and get it all together. And thank you all for making it happen and being there and all that. Dan, thank you for getting us all together for this reunion, and thank you everyone for joining us. And I hope lots of you will watch for when those applications come open for next year, so that we can do it again and make it bigger and better than ever.
All right, and then join us next time on another QB Power Hour, where we talk about where does payroll fit into your practice. Have a great week, everybody.